Welcome to the Volunteer and Combination Officer section weekly webinar series on a variety of topics. Today, we have a topic on lessons learned from a line of duty death. And we have Battalion Chief Jason Reese with us today, who's going to talk about a line of duty death in Prince William County, Virginia, with Kyle Wilson 17 years ago. And so before that, I got a couple political things to take care of. We use voice over IP technology, use your speakers and headsets. You are muted, so you can't talk into the system. But if you have difficulties, you can email webinars@ifc.org or use the chat function. I will be monitoring the chat function and keeping track there. If your computer locks up, log out, log back in. Most of the time, people have been successful in getting that, because we all know how some little piece of dirt gets in the internet system and messes up the system. So we do have, I already mentioned the chat and the question and answers. The handout that is in the handout section is the report that was developed by Prince William County, and the chief will talk more about that report. What's coming up with the VCOS? The big thing is the Symposium in the Sun, November 14th through the 17th. We should be opening up registration for probably in the next month for people who want to attend that. If you've already been to the Symposium in the Sun, you get 2 weeks head start to get registered. But those are the four webinars that we got coming up in the month of June, and we hope that you will sign up to one or more of those. And as we have developed that little QR code right there on the screen, that you can scan that in to register for one or all of them. So again, we hope you will join us. Upcoming events, the Hazmat Conference starts next week, a couple of days from now, and the Fire Rescue International in August. We encourage you to come to that as well. So in 2007, Kyle Wilson was at a residential fire. This was a normal fire that obviously changed from normal to abnormal in a very rapid fashion. And so there are a lot of lessons learned. There was an investigative report done by Prince William County that actually helped change the department, as well as the region and probably many departments around the country. I've talked to many fire departments that have experienced line of duty deaths and or even near misses, and asked them what changes resulted as because of that event. And most fire chiefs tell me, oh, we made one or two changes, if any at all. So Chief is going to talk about what they found and what recommendations they made to make it a safer fire ground. So with that, I will turn it over to Chief Reese.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just to give you a quick information myself. My name is Jason Reese. I'm Battalion Chief currently with Prince William County Fire and Rescue. Been there 25 years, actually a couple of days ago. And on this incident, I was the truck lieutenant. I was Kyle's officer for this. So today we're just going to focus on several of the hot topics that they went through when they did the actual report. The way this report was put together is we made a decision was made to get individuals within the department as well as external. So they brought several people from different organizations like ours from around the region to be part of this investigative committee in that group. And so when they started this investigation, they looked at everything and then some. How we did our training, how our training academies were run, how our pre-plans were made, how our running routes were done, how our communication centers, dispatch calls, and on and on and on. So today I'm just going to focus on a couple of those things. I've got a lot of information really in here. So I'm going to kind of try to probably move a little quick, just, trying to squeeze a lot into an hour. But with that, I really do encourage you to take a look at the report that the link will be sent on later on, because the full report is there and it is there to be used for everybody. There's a lot of information there. We've done a really good job of continually trying to complete all the recommendations and tasks that need to get done, but we have not completed everything still to this day. We're still continuing to work on things. So for today's focus, we're going to understand Marsh Overlook incident. We're going to review the incident, review the major factors that occurred, and review some of the highlighted recommendations. We're going to apply some of the lessons learned to the organization, everywhere from the firefighter all the way up to the chief officer. So a little bit about Kyle. We can't have a conversation with this without actually talking about Kyle. Kyle joined the department January 23rd, 2006, and graduated recruit school in June of 2006. Our recruit schools are 6 months, and he did really well in school. He came out to Station 12 where he's assigned to the engine. We have a rookie manual that we go through. So again, I basically rehash everything that they do in recruit school back in the firehouse at a little bit different level, at a more of a pace. At the time, it's usually set to be about a year-long process. He had knocked it out in about 3.5, 4 months. Go-getter, great kid, and just all around, just really good at the job for being on for a relatively short period of time. We all knew his mom. His mom worked at the ER down at one of the main hospitals in the area. So we'd known Kyle before Kyle was even part of the department. And then he passed away on April 16th, 2007. So a little bit about Prince William County, rapidly developing urban, suburban, and rural type community, everything that we have a little bit of everything here in Prince William County. Everything from large multi-million-dollar homes on 10 acres of land to low-income subsidized housing to include the Potomac River, military bases just south of us with Quantico, and then Fairfax north of us. We're 348 square miles, with the population reaching about 500,000 currently. We were established in 1966 as a career department, and then we're actually truly a combination department with career and volunteer staffing. We're currently on the career side about 800 uniform with about 76 support staff, a non-uniform, and we staff all of our stations 24 hours a day with volunteers coming in and supplementing. Combination system, currently we have 8 independent volunteer organizations with approximately 450 or so volunteers, relatively active volunteers. With 22 stations and 2 that are currently in the planning stages, and 1 we just broke ground on, start building. So for FY21, we ran roughly 62,000 calls, 100,000 unit dispatches. That's a unit dispatches, so a structured fire call will get multiple units for it, so that's what that 100,000 is. Today in this process, we're going to kind of go through the process of what was examined, and that's the scene items, the interviews, policies, procedures, personal protective gear, our SCBAs, the industry standards and regulations, and then we did fire modeling with NIST. So these are all things that were done through our investigative committee or that group, looking at everything. This was a pretty well documented fire with cameras, videos, and all those kinds of types of things. And like I told you before, we didn't leave any stone unturned, and we went through all of our policies, all our procedures, even to the point of working with MSA and Globe at the time for our gear. And we still are continually working with them, as well as with Motorola and the functions of your radios and how they work when they're wet, button locations and all that. All this stuff is stuff that we are still continuing to work with and pretty active with these companies in regards to how our Mayday buttons are pushed, how well they access, or how much access to them, where does the radio work best, if it's under a code, over a code, et cetera, et cetera. So these are some of the things that we're going to kind of talk about a little bit today. And then probably one of the biggest things that I'm not going to be able to show today, but is in the report and is online, is the fire modeling with NIST, which shows how this fire actually truly occurred, and how we end up getting trapped in that house. So on April 16th, the day it was coming in, I remember the day driving in. It was kind of a windy day. It was one of those days that if you're driving in the left lane, suddenly you were halfway into the right lane of the road. My ride in is on Interstate 95, large 3-lane highway. Multiple times was kind of pushed over. Didn't really think twice about it much going into work, but just like, oh yeah, it's windy, kind of thing. So sustained winds through the day of 25 mile an hour with gusts up to 48, 50 miles an hour. Nice cool day, 45 degrees, and the call was actually dispatched at 06 a.m. Our shift change time is 6 a.m., so this call was coming out right when we were doing shift change. At the time, we were not fully 24-hour staff, so we would relieve the volunteers. And on this day, on the ladder truck, the volunteers had gone out on a brush fire and taken the radio, one of the radios, out of the ladder truck because it wasn't staffed that night. And going down the road, unbeknownst to me, as the officer, Kyle, and our outside bucket firefighter on the other side, on the driver's side, Kyle told me he didn't have a radio, and he actually, thinking pretty quickly, handed him his radio since he was going to be going interior to that. So on that morning, there was 19 calls about this fire, but nobody gave us any information at all in regards to the homeowners being out of the house. Our first alarm assignment, and as we talked about, things have changed since then. Our first initial assignment, alarm assignment, was a wagon 512, engine 512, and engine 520. Just so you guys are aware, the wagon terminology at the time, it's the same thing as an engine. It's just a difference. We had most of the volunteer companies would have two engines in the house, so they'd always identify one as the wagon, one as the engine. That's just how it was identified at the time. We've since gone away from that, but so we had three engines, the tower, medic unit, ambulance, and the battalion chief is our initial dispatch. And then our heavy rescue and safety officer had carte blanche to add on to any call anytime they wanted to. So they did that and added in. So going down the road, we were getting information from communications that there was a, kind of like a working incident and all that kind of stuff. Everything was going pretty well, pretty standard. Coming in, it's just a picture of the house, aftermath of this, obviously. Just to give you an idea of the layout here of the house. So when we arrived on scene, the engine officer and I went to recruit school together. We've been best friends for 26 years now. Relatively seasoned lieutenant. It was his first day as an officer. I've been a lieutenant a couple of years at this point. So he gets on scene, he marks on scene, does his water supply stuff, and starts his walk around. At the time he did his walk around, he was on side Alpha, or the front of the building, and then went to side Delta, and then partially to side Charlie. So for those who do the numbers, it'd be 4 and 3, or 1, 4, 3. When I got off the rig, I told Kyle to meet me at the front door, and I did a walk around from side A to B to C. Was not able to get past the corner at the BC corner due to topography. All the land it moved back down towards the retention pond where there's a fence, as well as fire on the deck. So we did a quick size up. We never did a full complete 360. Neither one of us got all the way around to all sides of the house. Looking back at it there was fire on the deck from underneath the deck, which would look like it was starting to work its way up the outside and getting into the eaves. We knew that's where it was at. We came around to the front of the house. Both the officer and I met at the front driveway area, and there was a car in the driveway, a car in the front. Nobody outside, no sounds. 6 a.m. on a Monday morning in Northern Virginia is extremely rare to not have people everywhere. Just for everyone that commutes into the DC area, or into DC for work, at 6 a.m. everybody's up and about. So we had nothing out there. It was eerily quiet. The winds were keeping the smoke held down towards the ground area. So again, we had nobody, couldn't see anyone, couldn't see anything, didn't have anything. So we assumed that there was going to be people inside this structure at this point. The engine officer struck a second alarm, thinking there were people inside, and then we started our tactics. So as he was getting the line pulled, Kyle and I went to the front door. As we entered, as the line got to the front of the house, he and I entered. As we entered the front door kind of closed lazily behind us a little bit. Had him reopen it up, and then we started in as the line was getting ready to come in the front door. The line was on the front stoop when we began to go upstairs. When looking in the house, everything was completely clear. Smoke alarms were not going off. And the best way I can describe it was I could see the fire to the left of the house where the wood deck area was, and I was looking at fire like through an aquarium is the best way I can describe it. So it still seemed to be exterior of the house, or exterior, not internally into the house. So our plan was get upstairs and get a quick search, and then get out of there until we got a better knock on it. So up the stairs we go. Hand line was at the front stoop. We go up to the stairs, and as you see, this is this is the first floor layout. Up to the second floor, we get up to the top of the stairs, look to the left, look to the right. They're both completely pitch black. Really couldn't see anything from being 6 in the morning, not from the actual smoke. Saw the double doors, French doors. Up there is the master bedroom, so that's where we started our search, making a right-hand search. We get in there. We're obviously yelling. We're pretty loud. We're kind of typical firemen, making the noise, trying to look for people. At this point, smoke was starting to kind of come from the attic area. It was lazy, kind of a light grayish smoke, sitting about 6 inches from the ceiling, but really not, kind of lazy, really wasn't moving a whole lot. So we get into the master bedroom. I go straight to the bed. To this day, I can tell you the bedspread was white with little red roses type flowers on them. So still pretty clear. So I asked Kyle to reach out. This is a large house, large master bedroom, with a full sitting area, that had a full couch, full TV, and all that. So Kyle starts searching off to the right of me. In this process, within about, when he gets about 10 feet from me, everything goes from that nice clear thing to completely pitch black, extremely hot. So we both basically got forced down to the floor. I yelled to Kyle to come out. We're exiting the structure, and then everything went from black to completely orange. My ears started to get burned, my neck, my back, my hands were all starting to burn. Kyle was yelling at me. We were working on trying to get back to the thing. I was telling him where I was at. And we started trying to get back to that area. You know that sense you have when somebody's near you, so I felt like he was near me, so we started moving towards the door. I don't know why, or to this day why I went the way I did, but the flames were moving sideways. And so that's my mind. That's my best way of moving. I just moved towards the side, move towards what's moving sideways and try to get out that way. So we started going that way. When I got outside of the French doors, I got entangled into a table and ended up getting flipped over that and then falling down the stairs. I ended up landing in the front foyer. I don't remember a lot of from this point in regards to it, because I remember trying to yell for Kyle, thinking he was still around me or near me. I don't really remember a lot of the fall. And then the engine officer saw me in the foyer through the flames, grabbed my SCBA strap and pulled me out of the house. I looked up at the rescue officer who was there at the time, told him where Kyle was, and he sounded the first mayday. Kyle then sounded his mayday real shortly thereafter. For anyone who's ever had a chance to listen to it, Kyle's mayday was spot on. Unbelievable. I can tell you to this day, I don't think I could do a better mayday than what he did under the circumstances and the conditions that he did it in. So as I've presented this many times before, I encourage everyone to listen to it. It's hard to hear, but at the same time, it's an extremely important process to practice and keep working with. So aftermath of the photo, so here's just a quick thing. So that's really kind of how it is. The crews did an amazing job trying to get there, trying to get up to Kyle. We are obviously not able to. Kyle's Halligan bar was found at the top of the stairs. So I believe that he was at the stairs and got pushed back or something thereabouts. Our crews did multiple attempts until they were pulled out by a safety officer and a battalion chief to stop. One of the problems that comes out in the report with that is the fact that our crews, we lost in crew integrity. So literally it was next man up mentality. You would have engine 10 and rescue 10, two guys, they just try to go up. Have somebody from engine 20, somebody from engine 12 try to go up. So there was always a constant just mismatch of crews trying to get up there. So crew integrity was completely lost in trying to get up to Kyle at that point. Just so you get an idea here, this is just a layout of how everything went. All the hand lines came off of wagon 12. Tower, we stopped at the Alpha Bravo corner, and the reason we did that was to, instead of taking the front of the structure, was the fact that we couldn't see in front of it. There was a lot of smoke coming through the street, and I didn't want to, I was afraid we might run into somebody, so it kind of held us short of that. The tower ladder was still available to get to the Alpha Bravo corner area of it, but we were not able to fully access the whole house from it. So when Battalion 3 arrived on scene, the battalion chief had just set up command when the mayday occurred. So give you an idea of hand lines, just you have it 2.5 is pulled, and then multiple lines both to side Charlie as well as side Alpha. Again, this is just a location. Kyle ended up being pushed back in and was found just in front of the couch area. Where you see all the equipment that was taken. Portable radio was next to him. His helmet was found down a hall. Pike pole was also down the hall, and his Halligan bar was found at the top of the stairs. So just give you an idea of that. So some of the major factors we look at, initial arriving fire suppression force, looking at what we throw at fires, on a daily basis. Not everybody has the luxury of having FDNY type numbers and things like that. So what is the, effective firefighting force for size of the structure and that, and what we were working off, and we'll talk a little more about it. So some of the scene size up, fire development, fire spread, high wind impacts on fire departments and spread, structural size, lightweight construction, and those kinds of things, rapid intervention, firefighter rescue resources and efforts, and then incident control and management. So probably one of the big ones in regards to the initial arriving firefighter force. Sorry about my dog. Arriving fire suppression forces, looking at a single family home with NFPA 1700, we're looking at houses less than 2,000 square feet with no basement, no exposure. We're looking at getting 17 people there. The Marsh Overlook is a house over 6,000 square feet with a basement. Exposures on one side as well, and then our initial dispatch is giving us 16 people. And I'm sure you guys all throughout where you guys are coming from and listening to have some of these same type environments. We went from a bedroom community with relatively smaller houses to extremely large houses and all that. So our typical size at the time is there, but we need to be looking at. So a house something like this really should be getting 31 plus in regards to that. So here's our current, these are current staffing, dispatch complement wise. Our old dispatch was set for these kinds of houses here. The 1,400, 1,600 square foot houses built in the early 40s. Slab construction as well as split foyer and some minor basement type stuff. But this is what we currently have everywhere now. We have a mix of it all, So again, but we're using at the time we were using our same dispatch force, the same dispatch complements. So we're grossly under utilizing manpower, putting it in there. So some of the development stuff here, arriving units, our first size up is 6 in the morning, large single family home. Search and rescue was our priority. We thought there were people inside of this house. Come to find out that a neighbor from behind them, the one who called it initially, had driven around, gotten them out of the house, and then left the scene and didn't tell anybody. The homeowners end up going to a neighbor's house, and again, they didn't come out until after the Mayday had already occurred. We had a large volume of fire on the exterior that extended into the attic, which we knew on our initial size up, and we requested those additional resources. Primary and secondary water supply was set up. And our initial plan, our full plan was offensive primary search, interior attack if we needed it, and then we were getting out of the structure once that search was completed. We didn't identify everything. First in initial size up, again, like we talked about earlier, myself as well as the engine officer split the walk around, didn't complete it totally. And we talked about those changes within the fire service. For us, we require our first aid officer of an engine company to do a complete full 360 and give a full report, as well as any of our first arriving specialty pieces, and then well as our rig company to do complete full 360s now. So we failed to do that full 360 and get a full good picture of it. The rear of the house was not fully surveyed, and some of that was because we couldn't get to it. Unbeknownst to us, the rear door was left open by the occupants in the basement, which permitted airflow into the basement, uncontrolled ventilation. Like I said, again, like I talked about the NIST fire behavior, fire modeling shows it amazingly, perfectly how it was. We were actually above the fire and didn't even know it. Some of the environmental impacts we talked about in regards to wind and the construction materials. We've been real big on working with construction within the construction industry, as well as with the fire marshal's world, about lightweight construction as well as the materials they're using. You guys all see it and you guys know it. They're looking for whatever they can to get up the building as fast as they can and as efficiently as they can. They're not worried about what we have to go through and what we deal with. So the back of the structure, as you can see, if you look in the right-hand side where the FMs are looking, that's where the origin of the fire was believed to be smoking materials, and that was the initial point of entry into the house in regards to the fire behavior. Size up wise, fire development, there was a comprehensive review of all the procedures. We looked at how we did our on-scene, our on-scene reports, our initial size ups, our initial the whole process of it, our on-scene report in regards to that and what we do and how we do it. We started looking at department-wide training that came out of this. We looked at strategy and tactics. We were real big and dove into fire behavior and the science of fire behavior, not just what we all think we know. We went to the science of it, and we developed multiple training classes teaching true science behind fire and fire behavior. We worked on officer development to continue that process, as well as decision making in real time, including things like stress inoculation, to help make individuals make decisions while under stress and making the right decisions while under stress. Some of the wind impacts, everybody's very aware of the FDNY's Governor's Island studies and what they're showing in regards to wind effects and what it does, and it makes sense. It's not truly rocket science in regards to this, but we seem to forget a lot of things that Mother Nature does play a huge role in in what we do. So again, we had a high wind advisory in effect, 25, 30 miles an hour, sustained gusts. We now currently, if we have weather events or any of those things that are predicted, we now have a department-wide email as well as text message goes out to everybody who's signed up for it. First arriving officers are unaware of the weather-related advisories. We knew it was there. We didn't think twice about it, to be honest with you. Like I told you before, when we were driving in, cars were getting moved all over the place, but we didn't put two and two together that morning. First arriving officer did not anticipate the wind, those conditions. We did not anticipate that would have an impact on us. We expected our normal firefighting process. High wind impact intensified the fire development, continued and accelerated it, allowed penetration of through the doors, as well as some of the structural components that failed on the outside sheathing and vinyl siding. And then we had uncontrolled ventilation of the structure. We didn't control any of it. It controlled us. So we had a blowtorch effect, and when that attic flashed and came down on top of Kyle and I, and then pushed down through the stairwell and out the front door, the hand line sitting at the front door with a 2.5 smoothbore, and they were flowing completely wide open and were doing absolutely nothing to it, to the point where it was actually pushing them off of the front stoop somewhat. So we created that chimney effect through the core of the structure of the house. Just to give you an idea of some of the wind and some of that stuff that was kind of pushing or keeping the smoke down. Some of the wind impacts, again, recommendations come out of the report: review and revise all procedures related to operations and environmental extremes. So this is including snow, high wind, you name a weather thing. We've got something that kind of helps at least address some of that. But not only did we look at our department stuff, we actually kind of pushed in. And this has happened after 9/11 and with us in the response to the Pentagon, all the regions, what we call the COG region, so all the Northern Virginia, DC, and Maryland departments, we all operate off of the same guidelines. So we're all operating the same. So not only were we changing what we were doing, we were changing what everyone was doing in our area. And so we had a lot of subject matter experts that were able to help look at a lot of these different things. So adjustments were made in our dispatch complements. We went from our 3 1-in-1 to we now dispatch 5 engines, 2 ladder trucks, a heavy rescue, 2 battalion chiefs, medic unit, an ambulance, and a safety officer. That's our normal complete dispatch complement for a structure fire. And then we have upgradable process through that if we need additional RIT or second alarms and those kinds of stuff. We developed a policy for expectations of wireless devices use and programming. A lot of cell phones and things, all that we're starting to be bigger back then, so we started trying to do that. We also started the method of communicating the weather, like I talked about. So it's now every day we get it. We know what the information is now. Standard shift change information exchange. We now have a standard way of doing it. It used to be before, it was like, hey, I think this is important, here you go, which is probably what most people do. We've now kind of standardized it to where it is a kind of a set thing of what has been going on, and it's kind of just a set thing. We do a email pass off also that reiterates that also. So you're not doing it at 6 a.m. when you're tired and had a night of no sleep. that's created through the day, and you pass that on to all the individuals involved. And then we work on related training needs for wind-driven fires as well as fire behavior. Structural-wise, the size of the structure, as I told you before, is over 6,000 square feet, two-story colonial with a finished basement. If you look at the topography of it, it was 2 stories in the front, 3 in the rear. Pretty common for us in this area, where they like to have that land sloped down to the basement, has a walkout type basement. Type 5B construction with vinyl siding. Time to initial flame extension is at 82 seconds. To extension to the eaves is 130 seconds. So we're looking at less than 2 minutes. We're going from fire at the base of the house all the way up to the eaves. And that's usually in that time where we're still trying to respond to the call. Vinyl soffit up in, there, we had ventilation holes in it, which allowed for even more smoke and fuel to be kind of collected in the attic. And then this was done with the energy bracing as it's sheathing to help with the heat, but it's also nothing but petroleum type products. That gives you just a quick idea of showing of that. It shows your energy bracing, your vinyl siding, and the pictures of the soffit, and then it all is just fuel to the fire for this type of thing. And this is probably houses that every one of you guys is seeing and dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Construction materials significantly affected our rapid fire behavior, like we talked about the BTU. It's production of it all being just petroleum-based type products, and continually pushed, and you throw on the wind on top of it to push that. It continually spread extremely fast. Impacts on us in our community, as you guys are aware. Be ready for it, and we need to start kind of planning for it. So again, we started looking at this as a way to educate ourselves more, and then also get involved in the construction community from a fire marshal's perspective in regards to what we will or will not allow in buildings within Prince William County, as well as trying to hit the national stage as best we can. Rapid fire spread with extension of the structure on different levels within the house. Like I said, the initial with the slider door being open in the basement, it had easy access into the basement, and then it worked itself all the way up and outside into the attic and then down. We have multiple hose lines required on multiple floors at this point, and we were unable to get all that effect and all that process into place. We just didn't have the manpower to do it. Inadequate fire flow initially, and again, not enough hand lines and not enough people. Structural compromise of the roof and walls occurred within 7 minutes of arrival of the units, and this was in the process of during the RIP Mayday, trying to get to Kyle. Just to give you a quick idea on this is one of the timelines that came out of the study with NIST and fire behavior as well as fire growth, and kind of going through this. And I like to use this just to give you guys an idea, especially for those who are still riding in the front seat of a fire truck. The timelines, you kind of put that stopwatch in your head when you're making entry, et cetera, et cetera. So, 1 to 2 minutes before a fire is even detected, especially depending on 2 or 3 in the morning. Smoke alarms usually don't detect till at least another minute and a half before that. So then you take the time to get a homeowner to figure out what's going on and report the fire. You're now into about 3 minutes into fire growth. They call 911, dispatcher's on the game, and they get you dispatched out within a minute. We all know how variable that can be. So within a minute there, so then you got your turnaround time. For us being in 24-hour staff stations, relatively quicker turnaround time to get out the door. The volunteer organizations, you may have individuals that are responding from home, et cetera, so that may even extend some of that timeline. So response to a fire can be anywhere from 1 to 5 to 6 to 7 minutes, depending on the area you're in, and that's all different variables. For us, we were dispatched at 0600 hours, and we arrived on scene at 0608. Takes about roughly a minute to set up. Let's be honest with everybody and be honest with yourselves. When was the last time you timed yourself pulling a hand line, setting up your water supply? You might be surprised. I still get my crews to do these things, and it still surprises me to this day the time it takes just to pull a simple hand line. So again, units work on scene, and we make entry 3 minutes later at 0611. If you look at the actual fire growth, we're already at this point where it's exceeded our abilities, right? So we continue our firefighting thing, and then we're walking in and opening a door to give oxygen to a fire that's ready to flash over. So again, this is just something I want to put in people's minds to kind of put that thought process in your head, and you're making those decisions when you're going down the road as well as when you're arriving on scene. The lightweight construction of the house, again, we went through those reports, the effective firefighting force and the minimum staffing that you have. Everyone's different, and we know the NFPA's got its kind of set guidelines. But for us, we looked at internally with our dispatch complements and then regionally, and we all agreed that we needed to be staffing and sending more individuals to these fires to help make it safer for all of us. To review and revise all of our procedures related to operations of various types of building construction. So we then became a little more variable to what we were going to. It didn't make a lot of sense that we were sending, sending crews to a house that was normally 1,200 square feet, but we would send the same exact amount of crews to a commercial building. So we then started that process and again, looked at more building construction training as well as working within the fire marshal's office. Rapid intervention, these guys, again, phenomenal job of trying to get to Kyle. Did an amazing job, but we lost sight of some of the stuff we were doing and how we did it. So the 2 in, 2 out, we were satisfied on that when we got there. Also with the idea that the fact that there may have been individuals inside, we still had the groups there. Time of day, there's no when we had the Mayday, there was no RIT team established, just because of the way we set things in time. At the time for them, it was our 3rd engine, was our RIT, and it hadn't even gotten on scene yet. Wilson was unable to self-rescue to this. Data files indicate the pass was not functional. We had not done our pack checkouts as of yet at that point, so I don't know if it was failure due to heat and all those kinds of stuff, or what created the failure in regards to battery operations, things like that. But again, we went back and worked with MSA extensively so that these kind of things wouldn't happen again. So if you now look at, there's some redundancy within the MSA pack. Firefighter rescue efforts, we did multiple attempts, but our attempts were through the same way. We all went through that front door trying to get back to Kyle versus trying to do that. So we didn't actually, under the command structure, didn't set up a rescue group or didn't have a rescue group supervisor to help try to coordinate and organize those efforts. We didn't look at alternative ways into the structure or alternative ways to where he was at. Pass devices were sounding on the fire ground. It wasn't just his, it was multiple others. So again, that also hampers efforts. So pack discipline is also something well worth practicing and maintaining. We went and clarified the department and the association procedures regarding RIT. We also standardized our procedures and our standardization within what the RIT crew is and what they do, as well as created an extensive, we call it basically a RIT prop house of multiple different RIT scenarios and procedures, and we get crews through those on a routine basis. We established rescue groups within the incident command structure when firefighter rescue operations is encountered. So we now are operating our RIT much more actively than it's ever been before. As I told you before, we like our RIT to do that full 360. If they need to throw ladders and do things, they do it. If they need a hand line, they pull it, and they've got a full set of expected tools and things with them at all times. Effective firefighting force, again, minimum staffing, we work on that. So again, to this day, we're still working on trying to get full minimum staffing, our staffing numbers up. Very difficult, as everyone is aware, trying to get more manpower. And then we worked with related training. Incident control and management, Wagon 12's officer was the initial in charge incident officer, just like anyone and everywhere, first one's there. Battalion 3 established command 3.5 minutes after we marked on scene. Span of control, again, 8 crews operating when command was established. 7 more crews joined the operation prior to arrival of another command level officer. And so our command officer, our battalion chief at that time, was extremely overwhelmed and handed a lot of people to manage and to control with not having the ability or the manpower to do it, or exceeded his ability as well as overwhelmed him. Second command officer arrived in excess of 13 minutes after the Mayday. So control and management, no immediate command post support. So at the time, we didn't have what we call BSDs or aides for a lot of other places. So the incident commander, the battalion chief at the time, was operating by himself. We currently now, as like you said, after some of the changes, we now currently have our own. We have a BST has a driver, or we have a driver with the battalion chief, who is that aide for all incidents and all that kind of stuff. Emergency evacuation tones were called by the safety officer instead of command, due to the rapid progression, as well as some of the ceilings and roof structures starting to collapse. Depletion of on-scene sources. Again, all of our sources went towards the RIT aspect of trying to get to Kyle versus continually also maintaining our operation of hand lines and things along those lines. Events occurring within 2 minutes after establishing command. These are all this got handed to our incident officer basically as he's standing command. We had the Mayday from the unit reporting missing firefighter, and then the Mayday himself from Kyle's. As I told you before, Rescue 10 at my instruction, I told him that Kyle was still lost upstairs. He shouted the first Mayday. Not seconds after that, Kyle did his. There was a lot of unanswered radio communication from units in the IDH atmosphere, and a lot of that was what we call bonking or multi-units trying to talk at the same time, as well as errors within the Motorola radios due to them being wet. But we did confirm that there was a lost firefighter. We're still working. He's working towards that. So incident control-wise, resources, coordination, accountability, and part checks were spotty. Crew integrity was lost. We had multiple units doing multiple different things, all trying to do the right thing, just not being coordinated as efficiently as it could be in regards to maintaining our accountability. Compliance with the evacuation orders. We had evacuation orders initially done that the RIT crews did not comply with because they were still trying to get to Kyle and they weren't stopping. We never really truly made a mode of operation in regards to offensive versus defensive as we switched and transitioned out. Ultimately, this became an evacuation that became a defensive to offensive operation later on within the incident. So again, a low frequency, high risk event, firefighter Maydays. We all hope we never have them. I hope you guys never have to deal with one or have one. But it is something we need to be prepared and trained for. Firefighter rescue operations are extremely difficult. It takes a lot of manpower. We had no direct communication established with the missing firefighter. So command never really reached out individually while the radio. And at the time, we also, currently now, we've switched some of how we handle these in regards to the communication. So now everything that happens, our initial conversation goes from a command point, goes straight to the individual that's lost, injured, hurt, et cetera, calling the Mayday, get the information, and then at the same time simultaneously dispatching RIT. We now currently work with multiple channels in regards to our incident command system and when we're running different incidents. So the recommendations came out of this must be immediate resource assigned to arrive with the battalion's commander to initiate command post support activities. Again, we put that with us. We now have a driver. I strongly recommend it. We have several jurisdictions in our area that do not do it, and they all have the same problems within those first few minutes of training for an incident officer who's been driving there as a battalion to trying to catch up when you get on scene. For anyone of you command officers that are out here listening, it's extremely difficult. You know how hard it is to catch up once you get there. This allows us now to basically monitor and run the call, still responding. Develop and implement a incident command support team, so we have multiple individuals, and that we now train all of our medics, medic units, our EMS staff to be able to assist as needed in regards to the command functions and the support at the command post. Staffing position analysis for all rank levels. We looked at all their abilities and what they should be, which individuals should be looking at, and how they can be doing it. And then we did some compliance with established procedures and related training and up training, especially within the command system. So a little bit of the aftermath of this kind of take there going in. After this stuff, I mean, for me, I was married on March 3rd of 2007, so a month and some change before this. And this changed my world in so many different ways, as well as within our whole department. We've had individuals that were terminated due to alcohol use, drug use. You name the issues that came across. It has worked through our department as well as multiple others. So I just wanted to touch real quick on a little bit of stuff, just because I think it's important. This aftermath of these kinds of things and these events. Not only is it good to look internally within the department in regards to your procedures and how you do things and how you train and how you treat each other and work with each other and all that, but it's also important to look internally and look at the mental health of your individuals, because that's ultimately what is the most important part of this, because they can't do the job if they're not taken care of. So a little bit just with post-traumatic stress. For me, it took about a year before I kind of started to realize that there was a problem, and just like a typical hard-headed fireman and man, it took my wife walking in one day and saying, "You need to get your crap together or I'm out of here," which happened to coincide on the first day of our report getting ready to be released, or this report that you guys can look at being released. So the day of the release of the report, I walked up to an individual we have by the name of Vicki Taylor, who is a legend within the mental health world, within the firefighting world. She's done stuff with FDNY, Oklahoma City bombing, Charleston. She's a huge proponent of the National Fallen Firefighters in regards to a lot of this stuff. So she's married to one of our battalion chiefs, retired battalion chiefs, and so she's a local resource right here in our own backyard. And I walked up there and said, "I'm broken, I don't know what to do." And she got me started on the right way for help. Looking at just some of these signs and symptoms of things, post-traumatic stress disorder typically begins within 3 months of the traumatic event, but it can take years to also develop. So there's no perfect set timeline. There's no perfect way to say this is when it will happen or it will happen. The stress disorders are commonly grouped into 3 types: intrusive, avoidance, and numbing. And we've all kind of seen these individuals that are out there, right? You run the back calls, people want to get away from it, they ignore it, et cetera, et cetera. So intrusive memory type stuff, what you kind of look at the Hollywood world of it, the flashbacks, the reliving the events, all that. And for me, it lasted months of reliving all of this stuff, reliving the fire flashing, reliving falling down the stairs, reliving Kyle's death, and all those kinds of things. And then it turns into some of those things where you try to avoid it, you get away from it. You don't want to be around the anniversaries. You don't want to be around your family. You don't want to be around all those things. If it makes you happy, you don't want to be there, types of stuff. So that depressional level of stuff. And we all have these bad calls. We all have these different things that are out there and we run. And it's normal to process them. It doesn't mean you got post-traumatic stress disorder or any of those kind of things. But when those things continually last and stay, that's when you need to start looking at getting help. All right. There's your fear. You don't want to be around people. You don't want to go back to work. You can't focus on doing your day-to-day stuff. Just sad, can't sleep, can't eat too much, sleep too much. Things along those lines. That's when you should really start to look to get help. So how do I get the help? Really quick, those kind of things I've talked about. These are all those things there. So how do I get help? Where do I get it? The IAFF did a really good study. It was an anonymous survey type of thing where anyone could just do a quick survey, and it was there. 7,000 IAFF members responded in a behavioral survey. Given some information, put this together. 19% had thoughts of suicide, and this is all self-reported. So take it for what that is. 27% substance abuse, relate substance abuse. 59% related to family or relationship issues. 65% haunted by memories of bad calls. 71% said they can't sleep. 66% were easily angered or withdrawn, and 49% have a view of the job now in their future now that they're doing this type stuff. So those are just some of these things. These are all self-reported numbers, so it gives you an idea of like, hey guys, there's a lot of stuff that's out there. Most of these people aren't getting the help they need. So there's a lot of those barriers that were identified. 87% believe there's a stigma with mental health. For me, I went and got help. It took me a year to do it. I wasn't afraid to get it. It just wasn't. I thought that was okay. When the reality was I wasn't. But once going and starting the help process, it became like liquid crack. Is probably the best way I can describe it. It was amazing to go in and sit there and talk to somebody every couple of days, just to kind of have that processing. So, well worth it, in my opinion. 46% concerned about putting their job at risk, afraid that they're not going to be able to come back to the job, or the job is going to put them on like duty status or terminate them for a medical type thing or retire them out of the business. 58% are concerned that coworkers will lose trust in them, thinking that they're weaker for some reason. 81% concerned that seeking help will be viewed as a weakness. Again, we're all Superman when we go out the door and put the capes on, right? So don't want to show that there's chink in our armor, so to speak, and that's not the fact, not the case. 69% overall stigma about behavioral health, and then 78% receive no behavioral health awareness education as firemen. So we as a department are real big with our peer support team. In our mental health, we have our own actual mental health behavioral health center, which has 3 licensed psychologists working for it, as well as Vicki Taylor is the head of it. And those are free to all of our members. So anyone who works for our fire and rescue has free thing. That also includes PD now and communications. They have complete access to free mental health care. And we have pushed very big on allowing that, and we will do everything in our power. So if I have an individual comes to me saying they need help, I will find a way to get them off and get them the help they need, no matter what it is. So who do I see? What do I do? Supervisors need to understand and talk to their employees. It's really where it comes at in the volunteer organizations. Your officers, your line officers, your chief officer, whoever is there just needs to be able to sit and be willing to have those conversations. And they're not easy ones to have. But coworkers and those guys that are with them every day also need to be really interactive. You got to know somebody when they're in the good times before you understand them in the bad times, right? So I always encourage to get to really know people. Volunteer organizations, I feel, do a really good job at this because it's a brotherhood, family type environment. Usually, most of the volunteer organizations, they're looking to work with each other. They get to know each other at even more of a social level. So you understand when somebody comes in and they're really super grumpy or they're just look disheveled or you name the sign or symptom that we know. But I ask you, an employee, you guys, don't be afraid to have that conversation and talk. Don't be afraid to say, hey, you doing okay today? So the types of stuff that's out there, obviously counseling, medications. The National Fallen Firefighters have a co-workers groups. They have peer support type stuff. So they're actually not just waiting for someone to die to have that stuff. They have things that are out there. They're associated in a lot of different ways. You have the National Fallen Firefighters stress first aid classes, as well as their response teams. Their IAFF Recovery Center. There's 2 of them right currently. I think they're looking at plans for a 3rd. We have our own stuff here. We have peer groups and family, clergy. There's lots of things that are out there that can help you guys get better when you need it. So I know there's a lot of information. I know that there's a lot that I covered in a really short time. I really do hope you can go take time and look at this report and go through it. This is one of the first, I think, in the country that we really dove into everything that we did as a department, and we've made changes and we continue to make changes and we continue to see the growth within the fire service as well as nationally, as well as, locally as well. Here's my email address for anyone who wants it. By all means, hit me up at any time. I'm more than happy to have conversations or emails or that kind of stuff and talk more about this stuff or anything like that.
Wow.
So I will pass it off to you, Chief.
Wow. For those that are on here, I hope you have taken notes. I took lots of notes, Chief. I got a couple quotes I'm going to use from you. I've never heard PTSD counseling described as like liquid crack, but that's a good comment. And then, and again, it's 17 years later. And I know we had a Mayday here in my fire department, and the dispatchers are so much better partners today than they were back 17 years ago. And so is there anything, how does that help you out?
Well, I mean, we can't do our job without them, right? And so to me, they're a vital part of this thing that we've never really considered. We've just been like, okay, there was a call from there, but they are the ones, they're that link, and especially from a command officer standpoint, they're that link to everything you need resource-wise. And so we have worked extensively with them also in training, as well as, get that part of that stuff that we do here is we let them come do ride-alongs with us, so they get a better feel of what we do. And then we send our guys up there to get a feeling for what they do. So we have at least a mutual understanding of each other.
Yeah. And I think that is important to realize they are our partners and make sure they're trained. And our dispatcher did a great job, and they have the most powerful radio in the system. So if you want to make sure your message gets out, use their radio. You talked about this is a bigger house than what you normally operate in. Can you
Hmm.
see what's happened since then? Of how do you recognize this is a different kind of building that maybe needs different strategy and tactics? How do you recognize that today?
Well, we did a lot of that recognition through our fire behavior education and training, as well as like the changes within our dispatch complements. We upped our staff, our manpower, to get units there, to get the manpower there. Like I talked earlier, we went from a 3-engine dispatch to a 5-engine dispatch. Again, we're resource rich in this area. We have a lot of different resources there for that. So that's probably one of the biggest, just changing the amount of manpower. But when we started looking and diving into fire behavior and tactical decisions, we started looking at how fires behave, and that's part, like I said, the NIST fire modeling helps with some of that, as well as bringing some other people from some other organizations as well as different countries, looking at how the science of fire. So part of that, so in this thing, in this process with the vinyl sidings and all this, and I'm sure this is very similar across the country now, is we see a lot more fires on side Charlie or the back side of a house that run up into the attic. So our tactics have changed. Instead of going through that front door, that first line is going to that outside rear of the structure to start putting the knock on it before even entry is made. So a lot of times our 2-line fires are literally just that, a transitional type of attack where exterior hit and then moved to interior.
Okay, yeah, and command has to recognize that. Chief Bernasini in Phoenix years ago, when they had the Brett Tavor incident where he died in a grocery store, made the statement that Phoenix was using residential tactics on a commercial structure, and where you
Right.
think it's going to take 2 people on a RIT team or maybe 4 to go into a house and get them out. He said after that fire, they figured out it might have taken as many as 16 people to get Brett Tavor out of that building. And in your
Correct.
case, they weren't on. Kyle wasn't on the first floor; he was on the second floor. So that makes it more difficult because wow, you got to get up the steps before you even start to try to find him. So I think that's something incident commanders have to look at. And I know in your report you talk about that as well. So
Right.
uh,
And today we've changed to what it's now called a RIT task force for us. Some places I think call it an all hands fire, those kinds of things where we ask for it from a command standpoint, and we're getting a battalion chief, another engine, and a heavy rescue or ladder truck specifically for those functions. That's all they do.
I know several fire departments that the attitude about RIT, sorry, for many years was, oh, it's just something we got to do. We don't take it serious, and the guys who are on RIT team are bored, and they don't understand the value, and they don't care. They want to go
Yep.
inside, and so it is about the attitude of the leadership. Uh,
100%.
I so I had to laugh, chuckle, I should say, when you said you actually require your guys to actually time themselves pulling a
Hmm.
hand line.
Yep.
And I thought, absolutely right. As a training guy, I was a state fire academy director for 15 years, it is about repetition. And when they go, oh, yeah, I can get that off in 45 seconds. Really? Can you? Prove it.
Right.
And I would say you probably experienced this just like everybody else. Like, oh, wow, it took you 1 minute and 22 seconds. What
Right.
happened?
And
And
we've all been on fires where your time condenses and time expands, right? What you think is 3 minutes is really 15 minutes, and what you think is all those the time distortion that occurs during an incident.
yeah, yeah.
So
So my final comment, and I think that everybody who listens to this presentation needs to remember your comment after you sent multiple people in, you'd split crews trying to find Kyle. Your quote or your comment was, they weren't stopping.
nope.
Even though you ordered evacuation, that is a normal emotional response. So don't expect when you go evacuate that they're going to do that. So how would you address that today with your people?
Well, we've created more of a culture of that is a little more not called acceptable, but it's a little more understood that if a chief says something or does something, it's there. But our safety officers are extremely proactive now in that, and they hold a lot of weight within the incident system, so to speak. So I think we've gotten better discipline-wise because of this. So I think that we're not less of that. Now, you still can't take away the human response completely.
Right.
One of the things we did is in what we call our LAP classes, which are leadership development classes, and we start that at our lowest rank. So we call them technicians, but our firefighter ones, they start getting leadership education right away within 2 years of being in the department. And one of the classes they have is stress inoculation. So learning how your body reacts under stress and what it's going to do. And then we put you under a lot of stress and make you make decisions, make you make things happen, which has been extremely beneficial with these individuals and these, I'll call them kids for lack of a better way of learning, a 21 or 18-year-old kid learning how his body is going to react under extreme mental and physical stress, and then making decisions while that's happening. So that has been a huge proponent within our class, and everybody within the department, all the way up to the chief, has been through it. And that's been very beneficial. And that was a homegrown class from us. That was one of our guys that was really big into that types of research, into yoga and all those kinds of different things. And he brought it up, and we let him run with it. We gave him the avenue, and it's continually going.
Wow. Well, Chief, I want to thank you and all the members of the Prince William County Department, all those involved in writing this report. Thank you for having the guts and the courage to recognize that you needed to change, and you could share that change information with the rest of the fire service. And as you and I talked before we started here, here we are 17 years later, still talking about the lessons learned. And you said at the very beginning, we have not completed everything. And I think at the end here, you said this again, you got me some great quotes, Chief, is that you have gotten better as a department as a result of this event. And so I hope those that are here will go download the report, look at their department, maybe make one change in the next 12 months that you're going, we don't do a 360. We don't acknowledge it to dispatch. 360 completed. Whatever it is, pick one thing, because we all need to get better. None of us are perfect. And so again, Chief, I would thank you for your sharing the information, and let you make any final comments, and then we'll sign off.
No, you're welcome. I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm always wanting to talk and continue Kyle's legacy. He's made a huge impact within the fire service, and will continue to do that for, I think, generations to come. Just so you guys all know, I've seen a couple comments in the things along those lines about the presentation, all this. Just to let you know, I'm not sharing the presentation, not because I don't want to, but I also do this presentation in multiple other type places and times. So hit me up on email. I'm more than happy to talk about things, and I'm more than willing to come out and do full presentations anywhere that's willing to take me. I don't charge for it. All I ask is that you let me come out there. Again, hit me up if you got anything. It's all the email. My email address is there. And please look at the report, because again, there's a lot of a wealth of information within that report. So thank you guys.
All right. Well, thank you very much. You will get, it is being recorded. So even though you're not getting the actual PowerPoint, so to speak, but it is being recorded, please complete the survey. And we appreciate everybody coming out here tonight or today. We appreciate Jason. We appreciate Kyle sharing that his story, so to speak, with us, and wish everybody good luck, be safe, and God bless everybody. Have a great day.
Take care.
Take care.